All right, let's go ahead and get started. I want to start off by saying thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us today. My name is Jess, and I'm the marketing manager here at Index.io. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, just place them into the chat window and we'll answer them at the end. We'll also be recording this, and a link to the recording will be included in the follow-up email. So I'm sure it's no secret to any of you that the legal world is facing a ton of challenges with electronic discovery. Challenges like data accessibility, scalability, management, and overwhelming costs. And these challenges are the exact reason Index.io was created. We took the latest technologies and made the most comprehensive e-discovery tool in the industry. So what's so special about us? Well, Index.io is a true do-it-yourself intuitive platform, meaning you can get up and running in minutes without ever talking to a sales rep or ever utilizing a project manager. We also cut traditional processing times from days to minutes with our auto-scale technology. Need to fire up Index.io on the go? No problem. We offer a free mobile iPad app that is easy, intuitive, and secure. You can literally review, code, redact, and organize your e-discovery documents no matter where you are. Index.io is also the only e-discovery solution that provides a daily hosting model. So what does this mean? Well, it means you have more predictable billing, easier project management, and no minimum hosting charges. There are also no long-term restricting contracts, no licensing fees, no user fees, and no minimums per month. And now for the main event. For today's presentation, we'll be reviewing Index.io's 2019 features and improvements. We'll then wrap up with a live Q&A session, so type your questions into the chat box as they come up. Austin, our support representative here at Index.io, is going to lead the discussion. Austin?
All right, thanks for that intro, Jess, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. We've had a lot of really cool new features come out in 2019, so I'm excited to take some time and talk to you guys about what we've got to offer and what's come out this year. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. Like Jess mentioned, we're going to be doing a Q&A at the end, so hit that Q&A button during the session, get your questions entered, and we'll address all of those at the end of the review here. So right off the bat, I want to talk a little bit about batches. One of the first things we updated this year was some of our batching metrics. Now you're going to get total counts for both your reviewed and not reviewed and just entire batch sets on this page. And users are also going to get email alerts when they're assigned a batch now. So if I come down here, I want to assign this batch to just all of our users, hit save. Now every user in the project just got an email letting them know they've been assigned a batch. They can come in and pick up their review from where they were left off. They don't need to come into the project and check and wait and see when people added them to things. It just alerts them right away now. So that was a really cool addition. I think that's been very helpful for some of the bigger projects that we've seen. We also added some default advanced searches. So our advanced search interface lets you save searches and return to them later. We wanted to give projects kind of a jump start on that, so we've added a few searches that just get added by default. Those are show all, container file exceptions, password protected failed, and all potential personal information. So we really just wanted to help users identify issue items right up front. So any zip files or PST files that didn't extract correctly, you're going to find those under the container file exception section. Anything that had a password and was encrypted that we couldn't get into, that's going to be identified. And then stuff with social security numbers, credit card info, things that might be privileged that you might want to withhold or redact first. We're going to try and give you those as well. So really cool, take a look at those. Jumping over to the admin section now, we have added some changes to our user roles. I know in the past, changing a user role was kind of a pain. You'd have to uninvite them from the project and then re-invite them with the new role. Now it's very easy. You just come into the admin section, click on their role, switch it over to whatever role you want to add, and then it updates it right there. Also in the admin section, we've added a couple of new features here, just kind of to improve some functionality. We've got an advanced audio transcription option now. We got some feedback from users that our default audio transcription was inaccurate sometimes. It wasn't necessarily getting the text that they would expect from those MP3 files or other audio files. So now if you want to try it out, we've got an advanced audio option in admin. If you turn that on, you're going to get video transcription in addition to just audio transcription, and those all run through an Amazon audio transcription service rather than the library we use by default. So check that out. We've gotten some great feedback that it's a lot more accurate and much more usable text on some of those file types. Another thing you might notice this year is we've got some of these little help links strewn throughout the website. So if you're in the admin area, for example, and you're not quite sure what you need to do, you can click this help link. It's going to take you to our admin section, give you articles on what each of these tabs do, how to do specific functions. And those help links are strewn, like I say, throughout the whole project. If you come up here to the search bar, you're going to see there's one for searching. If you're over on our export tab and you're not sure how to configure your export or what some of the options do, you can click that link there. It's going to take you to our export article. So just making it easier for all of our users to access the information that's in our knowledge base and kind of learn as they go. Rather than have to search or take a tutorial up front, we just make that information as available as possible. Another cool feature we added this year is an automatic viewed tag. So when I'm reviewing my documents, you have to go through during your batch review and tag all of these items as reviewed manually. And that's a good idea when you're doing your review. Once you're finished with an item and you're sure you're not returning to it, mark it as reviewed. But if you want to just see which ones have I looked at already, which files have been opened, maybe you're a project manager, you want to see how many items have actually been looked at. All of these now get this viewed tag. You'll see if I remove this and then go forward and back, it's going to reapply that tag now that I've viewed this document again. So an easy way to QC, how many files have actually been looked at in your project, and just kind of get some additional information on that. Another cool feature we added is a privilege note section. So we've always had this note section. You can come in here and, buy a note to a document, something that you can return to later. But say maybe you know that you're going to run a privilege log at the end of your review. Now you can come in, switch over to a privilege log note, and list the reason. So maybe this was an attorney-client communication, and I want to add that into the privilege log. I can add a priv log note now, go to my next document, mark that one privileged, list the reason, and then when you're done with your review, all you have to do to run a priv log is come up here, go to Run Resource Report, customize the fields you want. And for privilege logs, I generally grab like the item ID, maybe the original file name, some email headers here so we know who the communication was from, maybe the email conversation topic so they get the subject, and then that priv note field that we just talked about. So I would hit save. It's going to run my priv log for me, kick it right out. You don't have to do anything extra or go into Excel and manually go through and list all those reasons anymore. The system will just generate that log for you. And the next thing I want to talk about is our export wizard overhaul. This is probably my favorite feature of the year. We really tried to streamline our export process so that it's as straightforward as possible. Before, there were like 6 or 7 different steps you had to run through. And now it's a quick, easy 1, 2, 3. You come in, select your data, give it a name. It's going to give you some warnings down here at the bottom. You can see I've got some duplicates, some redacted items, some exception items in this set. So we try to give you that info up front. You can turn those off right there and maybe return to them later and review those rather than include them in your export right now. Second step, you'll pick your output options. Let's say I want PDFs, text, and native for this set. I'm going to do a basic production. Then you'll set up your Bates numbering. Start value. You can change some file name options here, do other endorsements if you want. And then that's it. It'll give you a summary of everything, and you can kick your export off. Very straightforward and streamlined. We've gotten a lot of great feedback about this new feature here. Another cool thing we changed about export is that when you do a custom load file, you can actually include individual tag fields as headers in the load file. So for example, if you're exporting duplicate items, but you need to have those identified, you can add a tag field to your load file. We'll call it duplicate. And then I can select the duplicate tag. And now anything that's been tagged duplicate in the project is going to be identified in your load file. So you can quickly get that info in there. No more trying to manually change any of this after the fact or go in and make adjustments. It just does it for you. While I'm talking about load files, another cool thing that we changed is we added some support for SEC and DOJ load files. So if you're doing a production to one of those groups, they have very strict guidelines on how you produce your data. We've tried to make that as easy as possible. We've got some default load files you can customize, and then some helpful articles that walk you through from what settings you need to pick when you're processing your data, all the way through setting up that load file and actually running the production. So if you come into our tips and tricks section here, you'll see we've got the DOJ and the SEC article. Makes it really easy to produce data to those parties. I know they have some very strict restrictions on how they want the data to appear, and this should walk you through start to finish that whole process. And the last thing that we changed about export is this. I call it kind of the export do-over button, and that lets you import settings from a previous run. So you can see I can come in here and grab the settings from this export I ran prior. It's going to autofill all of these settings for me. Maybe you just need a different file type, or you forgot to include some stuff, or forgot to remove some stuff. Whatever it is, it makes it very easy to go back and tweak and export and do it over without having to recustomize every single setting in here. It just autofills it all for you. Jumping back to the admin section for a second, we made some changes to our redaction features as well. You see there's this additional option for white redaction boxes, and that was added because we got some feedback that the black redaction boxes, if you're redacting entire pages or entire documents, you still need to include them, but maybe you need to cut out everything from a 20-page record except for a couple of lines of text. Well, that looks pretty strange if it's just a huge blacked out document. So now you can turn this feature on if you want, and you're going to get just a white redaction box. It's a little bit less in your face. Some people prefer that, and so we added that option in for them. We also tweaked the actual redacted text. Before, it would blow it up to the size of the redaction, and now it makes it a nice, easy to read, just better viewable redaction. You can see here, it just centers it in the middle of the box. And then the last feature I want to talk about is we added this option for text fields on your tagging form. So, when you're customizing your tagging form before, it has just these quick, easy checkboxes. You can mark items reviewed, privileged, confidential, something you've set up in advance, but maybe there's a field that is going to have some variable entries. For example, like a patient ID or like a document number or something like that. Well, now you can grab this text field, drag it out here. Let's call that like patient ID. Maybe you're reviewing some medical documents. And now when I go into a record, I can bring this up and you're going to see that text box entry field here. So I can type, maybe it's patient 123, hit enter, and now that's logged in the tagging form as well. So something that's a little bit more customizable. There's going to be some fields in there that you need to update, but you're not quite sure what the entry is going to be. It's a great option for that. And so those are all the big features I wanted to talk about. We've obviously added some changes to processing and search libraries, just things to improve the stability and speed of the site in general, but I won't bore you with the details there. Some things you can look forward to coming in 2020 is that our devs, I know, have been working very hard on improving our mobile data handling, or working on adding support for iChat messages so you can get that cool conversation threading where you get the actual text bubbles back and forth. Metadata extraction for those file types. So be on the eye, or keep an eye out for that next year. We're also looking to add some improvements to our dual authentication. So currently, the only place that dual auth is really used is if you go into hibernate or delete a project. It's going to prompt you for this authentication number once you've entered a phone number. And then you just enter that code that it texts you and it verifies before you delete the project. And so we want to add that feature to login just to make accounts more secure. So when you log into the project, you'll be able to authenticate the same way. It'll text you a code and just make sure that you're actually the person that is supposed to be accessing your data. So be on the lookout for those coming in 2020. I know our team's been working pretty hard and is very excited to push some of those out. So that's our quick feature review. Let me take a look at some of our Q&A that's come in and see what questions we've got. Is there any additional cost for using the advanced audio transcription? Is that feature turned on or off by default? That's a great question. So that's going to be turned off by default right now. And currently there is no additional cost. We're checking to see sort of the impact of that feature, how many people are using it. eventually we're planning to move our entire system over to that new transcription option. And at that point, transcription will become either it's on or off. There's no basic or advanced. It's just an additional service that you can pay for if you want. But for now, it is still free. It's something you can go in and check out. So definitely take advantage of that while it's in there. Try it out, see what you think of it. And then when it does go live, you'll have kind of an idea what that's going to be like. And I think that was our only question so far. If anybody else has any questions for us, definitely get those in now. I'll show you here. If you have any other questions, definitely reach out to us through one of our contact us options. You know, we've got live chat and phone support during business hours, and of course, email support. If you want to take a look at some of the more in-depth stuff that we've talked or that we've added this year, you can come over to support and go to announcements. And like always, you know, we post patch notes, anything we hotfix, little bug fixes, big feature releases, all of that gets tracked in here. You can come in and see what's getting added, what was done. Definitely be on the lookout there for new features. Let's see, we've got a new question here. If advanced audio transcription off, does the original transcription still occur? So it does. Currently, that's the way that it works. You'll just get our basic transcription. Even if that is turned off at some point in the future, and we'll notify everyone when this change happens, we're going to be getting rid of the basic transcription, and it'll just be a service that you can add if you want. But currently, it will still do that even if that feature is turned off, and there's no extra charge for that. All right. Well, I think that was all the questions that have come in. And all the new features I wanted to talk about. So thanks everybody for joining us. We hope you guys have a great holiday season and look forward to all of the new stuff we can add and talk about next year. So we'll see you then.